What you're about to witness is a masterclass in paid advertising on social media and Google. I have with me today brother Akbar, who is an expert when it comes to paid advertising. Allahumma barik, he is an account manager and a team leader in the third biggest digital marketing agency here in the UAE, in the Middle East actually. And it belongs to a marketing group which is number 7 in the world. So it is with great pleasure that I wanted to introduce you guys to brother Akbar. We're not talking about a guy who just played around with a few little campaigns here and there. We're talking about a person whose clients are elite global companies, and inshallah ta'ala, he definitely demonstrated his skill here as a means of service to you guys. In this video, we're gonna go through some basic stuff. We're also gonna go through some advanced stuff. The idea here is to introduce you to the opportunities and the various different strategies that you could use as a Muslim service-based business owner. We're talking coaches, consultants, agency owners, community owners, selling an info product. And even if you have an e-commerce product, you can benefit from today as well. Without any further ado, brother Akbar. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we have brother Akbar here with us.
Hi.
Akhi, alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Very nice to have you here. Barakallah feek. So Akhi, just very quickly, if you could just tell us a bit about how you got into marketing.
Okay.
I know we've got lots to go through today. It's going to be a social media paid advertising masterclass. But just so everyone kind of understands exactly who you are and how you got involved in marketing.
Okay. So, I found out very quickly that I wasn't really strong academically. Mm-hmm. So I decided that after college that I didn't really want to go to university because I just felt that I was going to it's going to be a waste of 4 years for me. And so I decided that I wanted to do something different, go into the work life. And my cousin had actually started a marketing company in India. So I decided to pack my bags, move over to India. And that was more of it was a marketing company that had sales presentations every week. And that's where I kind of broke out my shell, because I used to be a very shy, introverted person. And when I was in India, I kind of broke out and I was doing presentations at the age of 19 in front of 1,200, maybe 2,000 people.
It's interesting is because most people from India, Pakistan would fly over to the UK for work.
Yeah.
But you went.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, the opportunity was there.
Mashallah.
And India was like just growing in terms of just the opportunity that was there for them. And so we just took advantage of it at that time.
MashaAllah. So you actually got involved in affiliate marketing. Now everyone talks about affiliate marketing, right?
Yeah.
And the concept of affiliate marketing is just getting influencers to share your stuff, right? Yeah. But you got involved in affiliate marketing back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it was early 2000s. So after I came back from India, my brother and I started a affiliate marketing company. So back then it was a case of we used to build websites, and we created a software called WebWiz, which was essentially we would put in a template, and we just put in all the content and it will spit out a website.
Okay.
So we used to go onto I think it was Commission Junction. That was the name of the site, and basically people who had products to sell. And so you had people who had, for example, they were doing selling windows or services or whatever it might be. We would then find their banners and whatnot, and then we'll place it onto our site, and then obviously do that. But then our site was obviously heavily SEO optimized. So keyword heavy and that kind of stuff. So we were making sure that
SEO, just in case anyone's not aware, search engine optimization.
Exactly, yeah. So we wanted to try and make sure that we were as high as possible in the organic listings.
So how did you go from there to then working as an account manager and a team leader for one of the biggest digital marketing agencies in the world?
Wow. To be honest, so essentially we went the affiliate marketing. We grew the company to about 7 people. And we found out very quickly that you didn't need 7 people to do what we were doing.
Okay.
And eventually we decided to close that down because it was just, the cost was just too high. And one person ran it. And I think we've made 110 websites, and out of those, maybe 10 of them actually made profit. And then my brother and I kind of went our separate ways. I decided to go and focus on one particular channel, which was Google Ads. And I just felt that if I could just focus on that one, then the opportunity for me to grow was there. So I started working for a small a private college in Hammersmith in London. And essentially the focus there was to bring students from abroad to come and study or do courses within that college. And then that's where I got my real taste of Google Ads.
Just very quickly on that. So it's like a lot of people who are watching, they're watching here because, they want to know about paid social, right?
Yeah.
Facebook, Meta ads, YouTube ads, TikTok, whatever have you. One of the things that I found just from myself and also just being involved in the Muslim entrepreneurial kind of space, Google ads is not something people actually dive into. Google ads, search engine optimization, it's like an untapped market.
Yeah.
And I think that's another discussion we're going to have on another day in a lot more detail.
Inshallah.
But why do you think that is, that people just don't go in that direction? Because it's actually bigger, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like Google ads is bigger than Meta and like Instagram and Facebook. And I just find that there's a lot less competition, especially for a lot of the Muslim kind of niches on Google in comparison to Facebook and Instagram. And I might be completely wrong there, but that's just the vibe that I got when I was just doing my little bit of research. Well, it just seems like it would be very lucrative to get involved in that space.
I think it's a case of people just don't understand how easy it is, to be honest. The fact is that every single biggest brand in the world is using Google, is using Facebook, is using social marketing. And I think people just feel that it's maybe too much for them.
Yeah.
And so that lack of understanding is kind of stopping them from actually trying it out. That's one. And secondly, I think it's a case of the cost. So because the challenge people have is because they don't have the knowledge, mistakes can be made very easily. And because of that, it can cost you a lot of money. But it's just taking a bit of time. And there's a lot of information out there whereby you can just take the time and you learn from it, and you take that knowledge and you apply it, and you realize, you know what, I can actually make this work.
I mean, even Google has its own course. You can literally just go into Google and type in like, Google paid ads course.
Yeah.
It's like the first thing that comes up, right? Like, like you can literally learn that. The reason I mean, to give you some context, how I was amazed. One of the things that we used to do before was we used to have a massive Umrah company, and we used to then train people how to set up their own Umrah companies. Alhamdulillah, I think we're almost on about 60 Umrah companies that actually got set up on the back of our training. Alhamdulillah. So there was one brother, he kind of just did. He's in the SEO space. So he came to me and said, "Bro, do you know how many people are searching for Umrah in the UK?" He said, there's 20,000 plus searches every single month. He said, do you know there's no one paying for clicks, paying for ads?
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Completely untapped.
Bro, that's free traffic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he's like, forget ads, just if you did some SEO, because the websites, they are rubbish. And it was rubbish. And then I said, okay, well, what about America? He said, 5,000 plus searches. What about Europe? 5,000 plus searches. Australia, bro, don't even ask. So we never actually ended up getting round to that ourselves because, we had so much going on. But had I carried on in the Umrah space, I would have definitely just dived right into that.
What's interesting is that when you're the first to do something, it's great, and then other people pick up on it, and then they start it. They'll say, "Well, hang on." If for example you're taking customers away from the people at the top of the search, they'll realize, "Oh, hang on, these guys are appearing above us.
What's going on?" And
then they get involved, and then it becomes like who can do Google Ads best.
Yeah. So Sheikh, that's mashallah tabarakallah, a nice introduction to your journey, and inshallah we're going to have you on several times so people are going to get to know you more. But let's dive into the objective of today, which is to give people an understanding with regards to paid ads. And just as a heads up, guys, this is not going to be all basic stuff, because I'm conscious that those of you watching are at different levels in terms of your experience with paid advertising. There are those that haven't got involved, those that have at a novice level, and then there are those that are a bit more proficient and have issues with regards to scaling and whatever have you in terms of your advertising campaign. So we're going to try and cover all of these broad categories in as much detail as possible, inshallah ta'ala.
Sure.
If anyone wants to skip to a particular section because you feel like that's going to be a bit more ideal for you right now, we've got the whole timestamps below, inshallah ta'ala. Guys, just very quickly before we get back into the discussion, we have two solutions for you depending on who you are. So number one, if you're a business owner that's already making money and you already have a business infrastructure that you want to scale, then we provide these solutions for you guys on a done for you basis. Our team, alhamdulillah, can build out these systems for you inside of your business. You build up the tracking, the ads, set up the ad strategy, and so on and so forth. And for those of you who are new to business and you can't afford like a done for you service where we build all this out, we've got an educational platform called the Righteous and Rich Skills Academy where you can learn these essential skills that you need for business, marketing with all of its sub-disciplines, and of course all of the other areas of business such as fulfillment, management, sales, branding, and their sub-disciplines as well. And it's extremely affordable. We wanted to make it so that you guys don't have to ever spend $5,000 on a course ever again, right? That's just on one topic. Here you have a database and you unlock a new course every single month. Elite practitioners from these different areas of business around the world are teaching on there alongside myself and the rest of our team. So you can check out the links below. With that said, let's get back to the discussion. So Akhi, first and foremost, Sheikh, as an introduction, right? Can you give us a breakdown of the different platforms for advertising, such as Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, like in terms of the social media paid advertising platforms? What are the differences between the two, and how does a person go about making the right decision with regards to which platform they should jump onto?
Okay. So just start off with Facebook and Instagram. So that's the biggest in terms of the social platforms right now. TikTok is obviously growing as well.
So Facebook would be Facebook
and Instagram.
And does WhatsApp have advertisement?
Yes.
I heard you can do
WhatsApp advertising.
Okay.
For that, you would need to set up a business account, but essentially, yeah, you could run ads through WhatsApp. So with Facebook, Instagram, it's a very visual channel. So in the sense that if you've got content that is very visually appealing, then that's a good place to start. Also, in terms of the targeting that's available with Facebook and Instagram, it's a great place in terms of making sure that the people you're targeting are the right people for you. So in terms of if you're looking, depending on what you're looking for from your campaign.
So does that mean that the targeting is more specific?
Yes.
On Facebook as opposed to other platforms?
Exactly. So in terms of the interests that are available on Facebook are different to what's available on Google, for example, or YouTube or any of the other channels.
So could you give an example of like how specific one might be able to go?
Yeah. So you have different types of audiences. You have affinity audiences. So these are things like interest. So movie lovers, luxury shoppers, that kind of stuff. You then have in-market audiences. So in-market audiences are people that are specifically in the market for a particular product.
Okay.
So if you could do, for example, in-market audiences, for retail. So people are actually specifically looking to buy something. They're already beyond just the awareness phase. They're now considering actually buying a product. You then have your standard, demographics, so male, female, age groups, location.
Household income.
Household income isn't available on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
It is available on Google.
Okay.
But again, because Google is not everyone shares that information. I don't know how Google gets that information, but so it's not a great idea to just target a specific household income. I would target everyone, for example.
So would you say that it goes back down to how specific you want to be in terms of if you have a very specific niche, then Instagram and Facebook would be better.
Absolutely.
Likewise, if you have good ad creative, then Instagram and Facebook would be better.
Yeah.
So then who would X be good for?
So X is great for real-time content. So if you've got a product that is linked to something that's happening globally, I'll give you an example. So I came across a company that made windows for shops.
Okay.
Right. And there had been, it's not great, but there had been a terrorist attack where a bomb had gone off in a town. And basically, the only windows that didn't smash were the ones that they had provided.
Okay, wow.
So they took that information, although it was something tragic. They took that and they said, look, we did the windows for this. We did the windows for this. Call us if you want strong windows or something, whatever
And that was like real time. And
it was real time.
Happened, everyone
Exactly.
was talking about it, and they kind of just jumped in.
Exactly, right? So then obviously if you were one of those shopkeepers, you're like, maybe I should get my windows through them.
So then is that, did they put money behind that tweet?
Yeah. So they created a short form video, and they basically literally just showed. They took I think they took a news report, the video from the news report, and they literally just pointed, this is our window, this is our window, this is our window.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the same way you can pay for an ad on Instagram, Facebook, you can do that on X as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, then what about TikTok?
TikTok, it's interesting with TikTok. TikTok is great for again, content that is very engaging. The challenge you have with TikTok is because it's just that scroll, right? People go through content so quickly. So you have to make it engaging and catchy as possible within the first second and a half, maybe even 2 seconds. If you don't, they'll just scroll by.
So isn't that the same with Instagram though? You've got the scroll as well.
Similar. It's just a different demographic.
Okay, these are youngsters.
Exactly.
So
Instagram,
they're just looking for the quick dopamine fix.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Okay.
So depending on what your audience is, who you're trying to target, that's a big difference between each of the platforms. Like I wouldn't if I had a product that was targeting young adults, then I wouldn't necessarily go on LinkedIn, for example, because it's just not the right audience for me. LinkedIn, I know we were just going to come on to that, but LinkedIn is more B2B. Okay. That's good for networking, that's good for professional services, that kind of stuff. So again, I wouldn't advertise, let's say, a product that's targeting young adults on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn, yeah. B2B, business to business.
Exactly. You've got to think about what are the type of people that are using these platforms.
And LinkedIn is heavily slept on. It's shocking because we're in the B2B world and we have zero presence on LinkedIn. And it's been on my mind for about 2 years to just get on there. And, it's just, we're so invested with Instagram and YouTube that we just never got around to it. But now I actually had a conversation with the team, say, guys, like now more than ever, like we're fully in the B2B space now, we need to be on LinkedIn, because I'm seeing just what everyone's doing on there, and it's actually just shocking. It's so opportunity is being missed, and there's so many people that are doing B2B on Instagram, but bro, your audience is over there. Exactly. And that's what you got to think about. Like whoever you are, wherever your campaign is, wherever your goal is, where is the audience or where is your customer base on? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Google? Are they on YouTube? Are they on Facebook? You've literally got to think about it. Okay, so what about YouTube advertisement now? Like who's that ideal for? And
great thing about YouTube is that number one, it's obviously the biggest streaming platform in the world, right? So in terms of your reach, it's huge. Number two is that it's great for awareness as well. So if you're a new brand and you want people to become more aware of your brand and your product, then that's a great place to start. And again, obviously you can have long form content as well. Yeah. So if your product is misunderstood or you can really go into detail about what you offer and
there you're running ads back to that piece of content.
Yeah, you can do that, or you can run it back to your site and then obviously keep the YouTube. So again, where do you want your people, your users to go? Right? When they click on an ad, if they go back to your YouTube channel, it's great. Obviously, they see your content, but would it be better to send them to your site and still have that YouTube video? Yeah. And then from there you can capture their data through a form or something like that, or contact us and give them more information like that.
Okay. Fantastic. And the final question I have is with regards to, actually, to us, there's many platforms. Let's go through them.
Okay.
Snapchat.
Yes.
Right in the Middle East, that's massive. It's kind of dying down, right?
It's starting to die down.
Especially in the West. Like I had Snapchat in 2016, and then I think I did it for 6 months, and I just don't hear about it. But here, apparently, it's massive.
It tends to be more popular with older women for some reason. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's like, so for example, I have a client who is an entertainment client. They have a venue, and it's like an immersive experience. And we found that we want to try and attract families. And we've found that advertising on Snapchat works very well because you have women who are looking for things to do during the summer with their family. And that's just a great place to capture to capture their attention, and then obviously sell them tickets.
Okay. So is there anything that we've missed out in terms of anything that's worth mentioning in terms of these social platforms?
I think in terms of what's coming up is things like obviously TikTok has become a lot bigger now. It's interesting because TikTok, obviously people when they think of TikTok, they think, again, young adults mainly, which is still the case. But now older generations are starting to pick up on it as well. So I think in the next few years, it's definitely going to be a platform where it will become one of the main ones, and maybe even outgrow Instagram, for example.
Okay, wow. What about Rumble and the other live streaming platform begins with T?
I'm not sure.
All the gamers are on.
Oh, Twitch.
Yeah. Twitch.
Again, those platforms are coming up as well. Again, depending on who your audience is. I wouldn't advertise a business bank account on Twitch. It's not my audience.
Yeah.
But if I was advertising, say, to give you a bit of background, one of my clients is, and so we have a product which is targeting people with children, and it's like so we want to kind of show the benefits of having such to people who are aged between 13 to 17. We can't, obviously, legally we can't make, because they can't, but their parents can open it on their behalf. So Twitch would be a great place to advertise those benefits.
Makes sense. Okay, so I guess picking the platform that you want to use comes down to your target audience primarily, I guess.
Absolutely.
And then based on that, you'd make the appropriate decision.
Yeah.
Lovely. So if you were to, for a person who's maybe like a novice who it's like, you know what, I don't really have much experience. All these platforms just sound a little bit overwhelming. I just want one or two places to start that would be like my safest option.
Yeah.
Where I'd be able to most likely be able to like get my audience.
Yeah.
What would you say? Would you Facebook, Insta, would they be like places to start off with?
So the good thing with Facebook is that there's different ad types available, right? So one of them is just a boosted post. So something you're posting on your Facebook page already, you just boost that to a new audience. So by just having that, that's probably the safest way, because then you're you can obviously keep your costs low. In terms of your ad, it's just the content you've already posted. You're just sharing it with more people. But then, to be honest, it's not difficult to start a Google Ads campaign. Like, you could literally just open up a Google Ads account, sign up, and it will take you step by step by step exactly what you need to do. There's nothing else you need. Everything is within the platform. Everything is available to you. And it just takes you step by step by step. From the point you say, I want to create a new campaign, it'll ask you, what is your outcome? Is it conversions? Is it sending web traffic? Is it, whatever? And then it'll take you through everything. It will create the pixel that you need to put onto your site.
Pixel is?
A pixel is basically a piece of code that basically tracks everything that comes to your site. So you would have a Google pixel or Google Ads pixel on your site, and that will track all your traffic. So
if you want to retarget them,
it's exactly, it picks up that information.
And likewise, Facebook, Instagram.
Exactly, they all have their own pixels. So if you didn't have that pixel, essentially what you're doing is you're sending traffic to your site, and you don't know what's happening. You don't know who's come to your site. You can't really gather any information.
So is it the equivalent of having like a lead capture mechanism, a way to Like how traditionally before Pixels, we would
Sort of.
just
It's
be able to
more,
get them to opt in and get their email so we could retarget them.
exactly.
But this way we can retarget them through the ad itself.
Exactly, right? So I want to understand who's come to my site, right? So we're sending traffic to the site, but we need to know what's going on on in the site. So is it someone, again, who's in line with the interests of my audience? You know, is it could be that you find out there's new interests that your audience has, the majority of your audience has, that you weren't targeting before.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, okay, hang on. You know, maybe I can target, and I keep coming back to this because it's the only one that keeps on. So if it was like luxury shoppers, for example, I never really thought about luxury shoppers, but maybe that's something I could target more.
And the advertising platform will tell you, hey, luxury shoppers are coming.
Absolutely.
It will let you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and this type of stuff's really important because what you think your ideal customer is more often than not just a hypothesis. And based on looking at how, you know, the advertising performs and the type of people that you actually get into your funnel, a lot of the time shows you that what you thought your ideal customer was actually not. Like, I'll give you an example, right? So we, with the Righteous and Rich School, where we're training people how to scale their businesses, we said, look, the goal is to get you guys to 7-figure revenue. But when we spoke to our sales team, who are actually getting on the phone and speaking to the people, and if you've got a sales team, especially in our space, it is really important to have good connection with them because they give you like the real battle-tested feedback, you know, like on the ground, because they're actually speaking to the people, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, bro, everyone's interested. They just want to move to a Muslim country. So like, I don't hear anyone talking about, I want to make $1 million.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing people saying, I want to move to a Muslim country. I want to be able to have free time to, you know, spend time with my family, go and do Hajj Umrah whenever I want. So we were like, okay, the messaging that we're putting out is completely wrong because that is what people are actually interested in. So
exactly.
I guess with the ads, you can do the same, but it's just automated.
Absolutely.
The platform will tell you, look, you're targeting these guys, but actually these are the ones who are interested in turning up. So then you would then redo your creative, I guess, your targeting in line with the data, and then you'll be able to kind of hopefully optimize.
I mean, it's interesting. So the way that your team had gathered that information was through some sort of survey or questions, whatever. So you wouldn't be able to get that information through Google.
Yeah.
Google will tell you, okay, the people who you are targeting, these are their interests. These are the demographics. These are their age groups. So that information you can get from Google. But what you did was you've taken it a step further and surveyed the people and found out the sentiment.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that they actually want?
Yeah.
But coming back, what you can do with Google, for example, is so I used to have a hotel client. So they were a chain of luxury hotels all across central London, 4 or 5 star hotels. And what we found was that so we found that men were more likely to buy the hotel suite. Right. So then immediately you think, oh, hang on, that's I should be targeting mostly men.
Which hotel was this?
There was a group of hotels.
Oh, okay.
It was called GLH Hotels, but they had the Thistle Group and some other luxury brands. I think they have one in the Cumberland Hotel in Edgware Road in central London. So they're a high-end hotel group. And so what we found was that men were more likely to pay for a hotel suite.
Okay.
So if we took that information by itself, then we should be targeting mostly men because that means that most of our revenue is coming from men. But what we found was that actually revenue was starting to drop.
When you started targeting men?
When you started targeting men, mostly men.
Okay.
And the reason for that was that women were more likely to do the research.
And tell their men, hey, buy.
And the man would pay for it.
I guess this is kind of, that's very interesting. There was, again, obviously the levels at which we're operating is vastly different, but I'm just trying to relate. So we had a brother who wanted to set up an Umrah company, and his Umrah company was for parents to be able to take their children. So he was creating like poster and making his messaging. This is organic, target towards the kids. And I just didn't, kids don't have money. They don't buy, right? you've got to target the parents. That was like a very common sense thing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's the same concept, right? Like I'm gonna target the parents
Yeah.
for the kids.
Yeah.
So I guess here you'd be targeting the women to be able to then convince their husbands
Exactly.
to basically make the purchase.
Exactly. So that the way we found that out was we looked at who was mostly coming to the site, and it was women.
Okay.
It was like a 65% versus 35% different. Men were 60 the other way in terms of revenue, but women were the ones that actually didn't.
So the women were the traffic, men were the payments.
Exactly.
That's very interesting. So this is the benefit of the pixel, right?
Yes.
That's the benefit of the
Exactly.
pixel. Okay, lovely. So now let's talk about different types of ad campaigns. We're still in the introductory stage of this conversation, by the way, guys. So different ad campaigns, right? Let's start with Instagram. We may not be able to go through all the different ones on all the different platforms, but let's stick to the main ones: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. What are the different types of ad campaigns? Well, firstly, what is an ad campaign?
So an ad campaign is basically your way. The way I see it is that your way of going out to the world.
Okay.
Right. There's different ways that you can target people. Like in terms of the different platforms, you have obviously Google and all the social channels. Like obviously we've been covering. But it all comes down to what is. It comes down to in terms of how you target these people, in the sense that if you do through Google, then it's about search.
Okay.
Right. So what are people typing into Google to find your product? You know, and then you've got other channels, for example, like Instagram and Facebook. So you can again use those channels to again sell products. You can boost your brand. So creating brand awareness. I think I've kind of gone off topic, but yeah. So essentially, in terms of a campaign, it's your way. A campaign is basically set up on one of these platforms, and it's your way of advertising yourself, your product, your service to the world.
So, if I've understood correctly, based on how you want to get out there, you would take a different path.
Yes.
Right. You would take a different path. So, what are these different paths?
Yeah. So again, so
like on Facebook, for example, what would be the different paths that one could take?
Okay, so depending on what your objective is. Okay, so
what are the different objectives?
Yeah. So for example, you have brand awareness.
Okay.
So this is where if you are a new brand, no one's really heard of you, you want to get the word out that, hey, I'm here, this is my product, this is my service. Exposure, exactly, right? So that's your pure brand.
They're not looking for sales.
They're not looking for sales. So they are, if you had a sales funnel, they are at the top of the sales funnel.
Okay.
Right? You then have the next level whereby you have, sorry, let me first, finish on the types of campaigns. So you have brand awareness. You have lead gen, where you want to capture people's data. Now you can do that through a form on your site. You can actually do on certain platforms, you can actually do it through the platform itself, whereby people go, for example, on Google, people can actually fill in the form within the ad itself.
Okay.
So they don't even have to go to your site.
Okay.
And then that's captured in the back end, and then you're given that data.
So and then you would then retarget those people.
Exactly.
Right. You would send them emails, maybe very specific ads you'd send their way, offers you'd send their way.
Yeah.
You might even get your sales team to call them back or whatever have you. Okay, cool. And that's usually the type of stuff that our organic advertising is based around that. That's like our primary thing. And usually most brothers that we work with and most of the clients that we have, brothers and sisters, that's their thing. Coaches, agency owners, consultants, people that have info products, they just want to capture leads.
Yeah.
So I think that's one that probably people will be most familiar with. So, okay, what else do they have there?
You have conversion, obviously. So depending on whatever your conversion event is, so whether it's retail based, whereby you want to increase or sell products, or if it's for example, it's all about. So that's their goal, and you then have things like.
So if I just on conversions, so it's conversions. It's not just the sale.
Yeah.
It's not just the sale, but it's a particular desired action that you want them to take.
Exactly, a conversion event.
Okay, conversion. So that could be turning up to the webinar.
Absolutely.
That could be purchasing a product
Yeah.
or whatever have you.
Yeah. So whatever that conversion event looks like to your business, like if I said to you, okay, fine, regardless of what your business is, if I said to you, okay, fine, what does a customer that has bought your product look like? Have they bought a product? Have they bought a course? Have they left their details? Whatever that conversion event is, that is your.
So I guess in the high ticket space, it would be booking a call.
Yeah,
a call booked, right?
Yeah.
With the sales team.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a conversion in terms of revenue at that stage.
Yeah.
So for example, there's clients out there who they want to bring people to their site and obviously fill in a form, but because they have, for example, maybe a high ticket item, which is not a one-time, fast purchase. It's something that they need more information on.
Yeah.
There may be a white paper. There may be, calls. There may be a sales team that follow up. And then it might be that one sale might take 2 months.
Yeah.
If it's like a really high-end product,
Yeah.
So even though conversion doesn't necessarily be linked to revenue, but it's just whatever you consider is that first step.
So I think even for some people, then they have like a very low ticket item to make back the money on the advertising and also to qualify the leads, and then on the back of that they ascend them into a higher ticket offer. Okay, so that's conversions. What else?
Retargeting.
Okay.
So this basically is a campaign that you would create to target the people that have already know about your product, maybe visited your website, maybe have you've collected their data from some other place. So to give you an example, we went to an Islamic expo in London. And while we were there, we were we were gathering information because we wanted to create an Islamic product. But we just wanted to find out who's interested and just gather their information. It was just a name, email, and telephone number. So I could take that list and I could plug it into Google, and then I could target those people.
Oh, wow. Okay. So retargeting just seems like one of those things that people, by not doing it, leave so much money on the table.
Absolutely. If you think about it, it's like in sales, it would be considered a warm lead.
Yeah.
It's not cold, right? So if you think about people who've never heard of you, your product, your service, they're completely cold, right? They don't know anything about you. You've got no reputation with them. That maybe it's like word of mouth potentially, but you can't rely on that.
Yeah.
So it's a case of by retargeting. So these are people that visited your site. They're more likely to convert the second time around.
So for us, we are a company that already has a pretty strong organic social media presence, alhamdulillah, on YouTube, on Instagram. We've got paying customers. What would you say would be the first one that we would experiment with out of these different types of ad campaigns?
Again, depending on what your objective is.
So our objective is we want more leads booked, more calls booked. So it would be lead acquisition then.
Yeah. So then a lead gen campaign.
Right.
To put it simply.
So lead gen or conversion? Because there's the
lead gen.
Lead gen. Okay.
Yeah. So lead gen will be a form fill.
Okay.
Right. So there's specific campaigns which we just for that. Right. So
for example, if I just explain that funnel to you, so we have a sales page with the VSL video sales letter, and then so in essence we want them to watch that video sales letter.
Yep.
And then book a call.
Okay.
Because unless there was a better way, which you might tell me we're making it very long, but yeah. So right now we just send people we want them to watch the video sales letter, and then on the back of that, book a call with us.
Yeah.
So that being the funnel, you still say lead gen.
Yeah. I mean, well, again, depending on whether you have a team that can ring up these people. So let's say that you just want them to just capture their data. So their name, email address, telephone number.
Yeah.
If you then had someone following up and then basically going through the process and saying, look, would you like to book a call? Then that's your conversion. But if it's a conversion where you want them to book a call, then it will be a conversion campaign.
So we can do both. Like we have appointment setters.
Yeah.
That will, but generally speaking, we use the appointment setters after they've booked the call to qualify the lead and to prepare the lead for the phone call conversation with the sales rep. But yeah, I've never really done it the other way around, which is having an appointment set up, reach out to those that have filled out the form. What would you say is better?
Again, it depends on what kind of. So some people, they may sign up because they want more information.
Yeah.
You know, they don't understand something, they're not sure, they don't know what they're going to get, that kind of stuff. So they may have additional questions. So by having your appointment setter be able to answer those questions will give them more confidence to actually book a call.
Okay. So, and then I guess not everyone who comes onto the page will watch the video sales letter, and if they do, they won't necessarily watch it to the end. The setter could then follow up and get them to watch it. So then you're saying it's actually worthwhile capturing the information before they even go on to the...
Yeah.
That'd be good to A/B test that.
Exactly. So you can have these two conversion events, right? So you have those people, they see the sales video and they're happy. I'll book a call now, right? But then you have the other people, maybe this doesn't answer all my questions. The worst thing is to not answer those questions or not have have an avenue for them to get those questions answered and then go somewhere else.
That's so interesting. And I'm sure there's like some type of a function where before they click play, a box pops up.
Yes.
But like, to watch the video, fill your details in, and then now we've got them.
Yeah.
Very
so you can even you capture everyone's data, you know, regardless of whether they're gonna book a call or if they have further questions, just capture everyone.
Yeah.
You know, just put a form on there, and just get everyone to sign up.
Interesting.
And maybe if you can give something away for free that encourages them to sign up, that's even better. You know, maybe there's some sort of, if you're selling a course, for example, maybe there's
a
fee module, or checklist, whatever, or you know, I don't know,
a neat magnet of some sort.
Exactly.
Okay, beautiful. Another question that I have, which again, so a lot of the questions I'm asking today are for us because we're about to dive into paid advertising ourselves. One of the things that I've always heard, and I just want to find out if this is true, is people say, look, paid advertising is the closest thing to, you know, printing money. If you can just get the ad creative and the targeting right. Yeah. So they say, look, this is like, if you want to scale, this is the way to do it. Is that true? Is it really that amazing?
It can be, absolutely. Like, it can be challenging because it depends on the market that you actually work in. Okay. Right? Like, for example, I don't know whether it's still the case, but there was a point where make money online was the most competitive keyword on Google.
Oh, wow.
Right? And to become, in order to become the first place in terms of that organic listing, you would really have to be on top of your game when it came to SEO. Like, you would have to be literally the best, because when you're in that top position, I think it's something like you get a minimum of, I mean, I'm talking about years ago now, but it was something like you get a minimum of 1,000 clicks a day on your site. And then if a position 2 was like 500, position 3 was like 100, and then after that it was hardly any.
You need to be in the top 3, otherwise.
Exactly, right? But the amazing thing about paid search is, regardless of how good your site is, you can be above them. You can be in position 1, 2, or 3, 4.
Okay.
Immediately. Like, I could set up an ad today, no matter how competitive that keyword is, I could be in the first place.
But how much would you be paying?
So
per click?
So that's what I'm saying. So you can, again, depending on the space that you're going after, it can vary, right? You have different types of keywords as well, right? For example, I like to use trainers as an example because there's always a flow to it, right?
Trainers,
okay. Right? Or sneakers, right? So imagine that you're looking to buy some new sneakers or trainers, right? How do you start your search? Maybe you don't know what brand you want. You don't know whether you want any of the top brands. Maybe you want a designer brand. You don't know what you want. So you just type in trainers. Very broad search, right? Then you get some options. Oh, actually, I like this brand. Then you start focusing on that brand. Then you find out, oh, actually, this particular model of trainer I don't know, Jordans, whatever.
Yeah.
This is the one I want. So now you've gone from being someone who's doing the research to now finding a brand to now finding a specific model. Now you know which ones you want, and now you want to try and find the best price.
Okay.
So what's the keyword you're going to type in? You're going to type in the model of that trainer or that shoe.
Yeah. And the brand.
For sale or for sale, right? And then you're going to look at all.
I do that with perfumes. Yeah. Because some affiliate sites sell it cheaper.
There you go.
Then others. So I'll type in, for example, Tom Ford Oud Wood.
Yeah.
And I'm literally just looking for the best price.
There you go. Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. So now, the first keyword was very broad, trainers. The last keyword is I don't know, Air Jordan 1 for sale.
Yeah.
That's become a buying keyword.
Okay.
So you see the difference between a broad keyword and a buying keyword.
Okay.
A buying keyword is the one that's going to make you the money.
Okay.
Right? A broad keyword is just going to give people information.
Okay.
Now, depending on your budget, do you want to focus on
the broad
or the buying? Like, do you just want to give information? Oh, this is the...
So strategic. Yeah. Guys, if you're finding what we're going through here interesting and you already have ad campaigns that you're running and you'd like to have Brother Akbar actually give you a one-on-one session, a consultancy session where he will look through your ad campaigns, answer your questions, help you with your bottlenecks, with your strategy, whatever have you, then apply at the link below. We have a form that you can fill in, and inshallah ta'ala, we're going to select someone who can get on a live call with Brother Akbar, who's going to be able to give you guys that one-on-one time. Like I said, we're talking about someone who has got experience with some of the biggest elite global companies, whose ad campaigns that he has managed and run himself, alhamdulillah, and he's going to give you a chance to be able to have his expertise on your project. The key here is though that you already have to be a business owner who is already running ads. That's the key. If that's the case, just click the link below and fill in the form, and who knows, you might have this opportunity. One of the reasons I love marketing and sales is like war. It's like battle strategy. Like I always say to our sales team, I feel like you guys are like soldiers on the front line. It just make, like, how do you, it sounds a bit nefarious when you say it like this, but it's like, how do you corner the lead? How do you trap them? Of course our job, we want to help people who actually set up their own businesses, but at the same time, it's like, in order to help you, I need to corner you. I need to follow you, keep up to date. Where are you going? Anticipate your behaviors. I love this.
So it's true, right? But the amazing thing is, now think about it yourself. If I was looking for this product, what is important to me for me to buy a product from a particular site? Is it price? Is it service? Is it the reviews? Is it location? Is it, what is it that's important to you? Right? Because you're right, it is a war, right? But then if your ad is the most relevant to the search that people are searching for, then you're more likely to be on top, even at a lower CPC than the second guy.
So how do you work out if your ad is more relevant or not? How do I work out what's more important to you?
Google gives you an ad relevancy score.
Oh wow. Okay, what about Facebook, YouTube?
Facebook less because of the platform and where the ad's placed, but like relevance in terms of with Google search, is people actually searching, like in terms of the keyword. How relevant is your website, your ad, your content to that keyword? Okay, you see,
very interesting.
So that's what Google is.
Very interesting, very interesting. So then the conclusion that we've come to is that this can be highly profitable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, without like I don't know why people wouldn't do it.
Okay, wow.
Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no reason. Like people say, well, I'm happy with the customer base I have, and we do a lot of word of mouth marketing. Okay, great.
Let's do more.
But why are you only targeting 100 people when you could target 10,000 who are all looking for your product?
I actually there's a brother I know who's a good friend of mine. He Alham Barik, he's currently, I don't know how much he's making, but he's making a lot of money every month. He probably every couple of months just cleans 6 figures, Alham Barik, and it's 100% through referral. And I spoke to him. I said, bro, like, why don't you just, like, my point was, if you just came out and did organic social media, the authority that you already have, in the space, the case studies, success stories that you already have, your product being something that's so desirable, is halal investments and so on and so forth. I said, bro, you'd kill it. Let alone with then putting ads on top of that, you just grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like some people just don't want to.
It could be also like you know how you sometimes have restaurants which are like family-owned restaurants, right? And they don't want to open up a second store because they don't want to reduce the quality or not be able to maintain that quality. So people, it may be a case of that, right? So whereby if you expand too fast or too big, can you handle the number of customers that come in?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, because it's true. I heard someone say that, you know, if you scale your ad spend, you'll notice that it will suddenly expose bottlenecks in your business that you didn't know you had. Right now, it's like every small business owner's primary concern is lead acquisition, right? But then once the leads actually start coming in, you realize you don't actually have the resources to deliver. We had this issue. So when we were doing our Umrah setup training, we had to cut it off at 30 the first month, because we're like, we won't be able to give these guys the time that's required. And even then we were like, 30 is too much. We dropped to 20. And then you now need to start becoming business savvy and learning how to scale your internal operations and how to recruit and train and create an organizational structure. And obviously that's a different story. So, but that's a nice problem to have.
Exactly. It's the best of problems, right? Do you know what I mean? I've got too much business, you know? So and that's the case. Like that may be a reason why people don't do it. Yeah. If you got a digital product, then I'm sorry. There's no reason why you should be like, it's a digital product. Why are you not on the biggest digital platform out there?
So,
you know?
So the product that most of our clients have nowadays, right? That is, digital products were great before, but now, info products were great before, but now with so much information on Google and YouTube for free, digital info products in within themselves, they don't really stand. They don't have the same amount of value, because before a person would charge £10,000 for a course that was like 3 hours long, but now someone has done it better on YouTube for free. So the space that we're in right now is like a combination. And look, coaching and consultancy is very beneficial, but it's really hard to scale and it's expensive. So we're in a unique time now where there's platforms like School. Are you familiar with School?
I'm not. No.
So it's a new platform that's coming. We host ourselves on there as well, and basically it combines between courses, live training, and community. And the community features is gamified. So the more you behave in a particular way, the more points you earn and unlock prizes. So people are incentivized to provide as much value to the community as possible. And you define what is valuable for the community, and everyone just stays in line, which is amazing, because before we've had so many communities that have just gone left, becomes toxic, it just loses value. Whatever. Now everyone's like, okay, I want to unlock these prizes, like 9 levels. So what we do now, what we're telling everyone to do is that, look, having a course is not going to cut it. Also, coaching, you're going to struggle to scale because you've only got a certain amount of hours in a day, and you can only charge a certain amount for them. Eventually, either you're going to tap out in terms of hours, or your customer or your audience is going to tap out and say, I can't afford that. But with this, you've got training that you can release every month, and you can do like we do multiple weekly calls, where someone can just, like, everyone in the community can just come and talk. And it's true, I won't give you 1 hour dedicated, but that 10 minutes I give you is very specific and highly concentrated and focused, that it solves your problem. And then everyone else gets a chance to ask questions, and you're getting a lot of your questions asked by them as well. And it's very high leverage, because I can just come for an hour every day, or the way we do it is myself, and then the next day we have another team member, and one day is on offer, one day is on sales, one day is on organic social, one day is on whatever. And then it's like every day you can talk to someone, an expert, and just, get your problem solved. So we found that having this type of a product it's like, bro, we should be just pumping ads to this because we can scale this to the moon. Because the info product is there, as you said, which is the courses and the training. The live calls, that's just an hour of my day.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I'll do 2. I'll do 3 hours a day, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid for it. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, you're right. That's why we're at a place now where we really just want to dive into the ads. And the reason I kind of mentioned this is kind of just to relate to those that are watching that, you know, it's that time where we just kind of flood this with that. By the way, Brother Akbar is going to be doing one of these calls, inshallah ta'ala, on a weekly basis. He's going to be checking your ad campaigns, giving you guys that real life feedback. We'll talk more about that, inshallah, as time progresses. Yeah. But yeah, so it's something that, in a nutshell, we need to be doing it.
Absolutely.
We need to be doing. Okay.
Yeah.
What are some common misconceptions about social media paid advertising and paid advertising in general that, you know, you'd like to debunk?
The biggest one, if I spend more, I make more.
Okay.
That's not right. And what I mean by that is that you need to make sure that whatever you're currently, before you start, you know, spending more money, because people think, oh, I'm making, you know, I don't know, X amount of money from here. If I now double the ad spend, my income should double as well. That's not the case. It's like, so there's you want to make sure that everything that you're currently doing is working as best as it can
before you
at the spend level that you currently have. So if you're selling a product through some sort of a checkout process, is your checkout process good? Like, is it simple? Is it streamlined? Is it easy for the person to actually buy the product? Is your are your ads, or if you're targeting certain keywords, are you appearing as much as you possibly can for that keyword? So there's something called impression share, right? Impression share is where the number of impressions that your keyword or your ad is eligible for.
Okay.
And how often it shows, and it's a percentage, right? So if you have a brand term, so ABC Shop is your brand. You should be aiming for a 90 to 100% impression share.
This is on Google.
On Google, right? So, like I said, so impression share is basically how many impressions your ad is eligible for, and how often you're showing for that ad.
Okay.
Now, it may be that you're losing impressions because your budget's not high enough, right? And Google tells you that. So it might tell you, 7% of your impressions were lost, or 20% of your impressions were lost because you didn't have enough budget. So your budget ended before the end of the day.
Okay, wow.
Right? If you've got a generic, so just to explain different types of keywords, you have your brand keywords and you have your generic keywords. To give an example, a brand keyword would be something like, I don't know, if I think you're banking, it might be HSBC. Okay. Right? That's a brand keyword for HSBC. A generic keyword might be bank account. It's not linked to any particular brand. And what you'll find is that your brand keyword, that's your cheapest traffic, but also the one that will get you the most revenue, because people are searching for your brand.
Okay, that's if they're searching.
If they're searching, right? So if people are searching for, say, HSBC bank account, that's a brand term, right? Rather than bank account. So people are searching for bank account, they don't know which bank to go for. They don't know what they're looking for. People are searching for HSBC bank account, they know that they want to open up a HSBC bank account. Like, they're already in that mindset, right? So it's like that 80-20 rule. Okay. So you'll spend 20% of your ad spend on, but you get 80% returns. But you'll get 80% return for your brand terms, and it's the other way around for generic. Okay. There's a lot more competition with your generic terms, which I think most of your subscribers will be targeting. They're going to go after that generic terms, right? For generic terms, when it comes to impression share, you want to aim for about a 60% impression share. Okay. Because going for 100% is too competitive, and it's not going to bring you those the return that you're looking for. So in essence, then, what you're saying is, before you bump up the ad spend, make sure you're tweaking all of the things on your current campaign to make sure you're making the most out of what you're already spending. Exactly. So that when you do scale, you scale efficiently. Exactly. Otherwise, you're spending more money, but you could have been, by doubling your ad spend, you're hoping to double
your traffic, but you could have doubled it just by tweaking some of the sloppy things that you were doing.
Exactly.
So then on Instagram and Facebook, would that then translate with regards to maybe your targeting, maybe the ad creative itself, maybe changing the hook, changing the offer, trying different things, working.
So like I said, so it's like what we talked about earlier with the hotel group.
Yeah.
Like we started targeting men mostly, right? And then we realized, oh, hang on, that's actually dropping our traffic. We didn't have to increase the cost or our ad spend. All we needed to do was change the targeting. So we changed it to women, and then all of a sudden our revenue went up.
And would you say there's always things to improve?
So with me, so you can have very complicated campaigns. I'll give you an example, right? So you can even involve scripts. So Google Ads does Google Ad scripts. So these are automated pieces of code that you can run on a schedule, right? They do different tasks.
Okay.
Right? So you can have a script which, for example, will tell you if any of your campaigns are going to go over budget.
Okay.
Right? And you run that script every hour.
Okay.
Right? So if you're very conscious about how much you spend, because the thing with Google, even if you say that you've got, say, $100 you want to spend on a campaign, Google may spend more or less than 100. And there's a certain percentage that it may spend more or less.
Okay.
Right? The only way to control that is by switching off the ad once you reach the budget that you want to spend.
Okay.
Right? So you might say, or in fact, let's say that your ad spend for the month for one campaign is $300.
Okay.
Right? So that's $10 a day. Right? You don't want to spend more than $10 a day. Right? But Google, on some days, it might spend $15. On other days, it might spend $5. Right? And it tries to balance it out as much as it can.
Okay.
However, if you are adamant that I don't want to go over $300, then you can set up a script which will then run every hour, check how much you've spent. If you spent too much, it will switch off the campaign.
Okay.
And it does that automatically.
Okay.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That means you don't have to be sitting there or going on your phone or just checking how much you spent every hour. It does it for you. So that's a Google Ad script. So you have Google Ad scripts which will check or do alerts and things like that. You have Google Ad scripts that can make changes on your account. You can connect these Google Ad scripts to different APIs, and it spits out information to, say, a Google Sheet, or a Google Slide and that kind of stuff, right? So to give you an example of a complicated script, again with this hotel client, and this was at a point where we were doing really well, and we wanted to see how far we could take it.
Okay.
So we connected this Google Ad script to a flight status API, right? So this is
at the airport.
At the airport, right? So what it would do, we targeted Heathrow campaign.
Sorry, what's an API, just for people that may not be familiar with it?
An API is basically, how can I describe it? An API is information that you can, I can't describe it.
Just a way to connect one thing to another, right?
Yeah, so essentially you can connect, I'll give you an example. So this was a flight status sheet, which then plugged into our Google script.
Okay.
Right? So there's services available and you would pay for these services. So that API is basically has all the data and you're just connecting to that data. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. Yeah.
Connecting two things together.
Exactly. Right.
Two different sources of information.
Yes.
Two different platforms.
Yes.
But you want to create some type of an automation between the two. You want to link the two.
Yes.
So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we're linking this API to our Google Ads script, right? Okay. So now Google Ads has this access to this information.
i.e. the flights.
Which is about all the flight status. So whether flights have departed, whether they've been cancelled, whether they've been delayed. So we had a campaign which was targeting Heathrow Airport, right? This hotel had, I think, 3 hotels around Heathrow Airport.
Okay.
When a flight got cancelled, our script would pick it up saying, Emirates flight to Dubai has been cancelled and it will be it's been rescheduled for the next day, right? Our ads would change, right? So the script would see that that flight has been cancelled, And then our ads would change saying, looking for a hotel. Emirates customers use code XYZ.
Emirates customers use code. Wow. Oh wow, like that.
Yeah.
Because obviously they are searching for hotels now because
Exactly.
because
They're in Heathrow.
their flight's been cancelled.
Yeah. So hotels near me would be a search. And immediately they see our ad. And we'll increase our bids on that term.
Wow. And how often flights get cancelled? Just out of curiosity.
It wasn't too often. It probably happens more. There's certain, like around peak times.
Yeah.
There's certain flights that do get cancelled. I would say maybe 4 or 5 a week, maybe in total across all the different.
But that's how you make money, isn't it? Just picking up on all these little.
So now imagine that you're a competitor. You don't even know a flight's been cancelled. You're just targeting hotels near me. But hang on, I've now got I've increased my bids on that particular keyword. I'm giving a discount for those particular customers. So my message.
And you're targeting the people from that flight.
And we're giving a discount code, so you're more likely to use it. And we're close by.
Yeah.
So everything, it ticks all the boxes.
All the boxes.
So that can be you can go to that level with your ads. Most people don't have to. We just thought, let's just see what we can do with this, right?
Is that your idea?
It's something that I read about. So I didn't come up with it, but it was something I read about, but we did implement it.
That is just so interesting.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I love it. So, Sheikh, talk to us now about targeting and segmentation.
Yeah.
How does it work on Facebook and Instagram?
Okay.
If there's like a person who's got like a coaching kind of service, PT or relationship coach or whatever have you, what are the things that they need to look for when targeting and segmenting the audience?
Okay, so basically you're segmenting your audience is basically grouping people which have similar interests, maybe a similar demographic, maybe they're females of a particular age who have certain interests. So on Facebook, for example, you can do, there's probably a Pilates group, yoga group, that kind of stuff. So if you're a PT and that's what you specialize in, then that's your group. So you would create an audience with those interests.
Okay. So how do you go about creating that audience?
So within the campaign setup, as you're creating the campaign, it will ask you, this information comes up. So it will ask you, for example, location, where do you want to target? It will ask you for interests. It will ask you for behaviors. You can even go down to things like what device they use. So iPhone users, for example, might be. So it's interesting. So there is a difference between iPhone and Android customers. iPhone, for example, with my banking client, we find that iPhone users have a higher salary than Android users.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Look at that. You Android all the time there. Oh, we can do more with Android. You could do more with.
I mean,
right?
if you think about it, I mean, to be honest, that group is very small as well compared to the Android market.
Okay.
I'm an Android user as well. Do you know what I mean? I might just have to walk out this podcast. But with the Android users, because the group is so large, the overall salary will be lower. So people who can't afford,
makes sense because the average because there's more Android users.
Yeah. Because iPhones are so overpriced, so those Android users go for the cheaper Android device.
Makes sense. So then based on that, you'd be like, but does that also change from country to country? Because for example, here in the Emirates, like a lot of like the labor workers and whatnot, like they would go for Android, like the Huawei's or whatnot. Yeah. But in UK, it's like Samsungs. Yeah. And they're not as cheap as those type of Androids here. Yeah. So would it? So
that's the thing with again, it comes down to whatever the average is, right?
Okay.
So if you're an iPhone user, you tend to pay higher for devices that you could pay less for with an Android device, and in terms of that salary, in terms of the overall average between those two.
Okay, so you can target people based. So this is segmentation you're talking about.
Yeah. So you can target people. So with Facebook specifically, there's lots of groups, there's lots of companies, there's education, so universities, this kind of. So maybe again, If I go back to my banking client, people who have a college degree are more likely to open a bank account than people without.
So if I can tell a few examples, some of the clients that we have, right?
Yeah.
So we have one particular brother, Allah Barik. His clients are people that are professionals that want to make a career change into tech.
Okay.
And he basically trains them on how to on the specificities of a particular tech role, and gets them onto a 50K a year salary.
Okay.
So his ideal client might be, for example, someone who done pharmacy at university, got a job as a pharmacist, realized, you know what, I'm just a shopkeeper for medicine. This is not fulfilling, and I want a remote job. I want to be paid more.
Yep.
And he'd like a career change.
Yeah.
He may or may not know, but that's his situation. That would be the ideal client for this client of ours here.
Yeah.
So how would you, just off the top of your head?
So number one, it will be LinkedIn. 100%.
So no need for Facebook, Instagram?
No, I don't think so, because what you could potentially do it, but your focus should be LinkedIn. Like that's where most of your ad spend will go.
So would like a pharmacist be on LinkedIn? Like as in even just an employee?
Like, look, if you're looking for a new career.
Because they're looking. Okay.
Exactly, right? So where do most people look? Glassdoor, LinkedIn. These are the sites, right?
Yeah. Because yes, you're right. You're right. Yes,
again, put yourself in the shoes of your
yes. You're right.
If I was looking for a new job, what would I do? I would go to LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I would change my profile to say, looking for work, or looking for opportunity, and then all of a sudden you'll get all these calls from recruiters.
Okay.
But what if I'm on there, even if I'm on my own field, right? So maybe you do find that pharmacies, or let's say there's an industry where it's being highly affected right now. So for example, I know in the UK there's an issue around nursing, right?
Yeah.
Less people are becoming nurses, right?
Yeah.
So, or maybe more people are leaving that nursing, for example. If you know that there's a certain industry where people are leaving because the opportunities are less, the money's less, maybe that's your target audience. Maybe you want to target that specific industry. So you want to go after nurses. You want to show them that there's other opportunities. You can relearn. You can do these courses. Put you into and then
lovely.
Yeah.
So another client of ours, he's a relationship coach.
Yep.
For Muslim couples that are going through turbulent times.
Yeah.
He's got a presence on YouTube and Instagram. So how would someone like that go about segmenting and targeting?
I think for that one, again, because it's a very personal thing, it's something that people. Again, if I was in a situation where I was looking for help, what would I do? Right? So maybe I would do YouTube. Just finding out solutions. I want to fix my marriage, that kind of stuff. Maybe even on Google search might be a good option. So
you're right. Those type of things is true. You wouldn't be on Instagram necessarily looking.
Exactly.
Right? You'd be on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you'd be on Google. So then, so how would you go about targeting, like on YouTube? Like
again, you can target the search. So
the word.
The word. So relationship advice would be one.
But if, for example, they made an ad.
Yeah.
Right. If he makes an ad where he's talking to them and appealing to their pain points, whatever have you, what type of audience would he target with the ad?
Yeah. So again, people will search for relationship advice in YouTube, right? And the amazing thing about YouTube is it's now becoming, I think, the number one search engine as well.
Number one?
Yeah.
Above Google?
Yeah. Well, it's becoming, I think, maybe out of all the social channels.
Okay.
So it's usually the first place people go, and even I do it. I've noticed that. I'd rather watch a video about something I'm looking for
more than Google,
more than just like doing a Google search, then finding a website.
I actively do that.
Exactly. Right. So it's becoming more and more popular. I think it may even be.
You're right. I've seen those ads. They pop up right at the top of your search.
Yeah.
I've seen those ads. Yeah, you're right.
So you have ads within YouTube. You have below it. You have on the side of it.
Yeah, the ones on the video.
Yeah, well. And then you have they're called buffer ads. So those are those 6-second unskippable ads.
Yeah.
Then you've got the skippable ads, which are about 15 to 30 seconds. So that, but before that, come before, middle, and at the end.
The last example I have for you is there's a brother. He's just joined our community. He's a Quran teacher. So he has a Quran school online, and it was going really well a few years ago. Allah Barik, he was killing with the ads. But then Google turned off the ability to target based on religion, like religious figures and whatever have you. So that just crushed him. So now he's trying to go back to organic. He's trying to build an organic presence and build off that. So how would someone like that go about? Because like like our stuff is very like niche specific, right? For Muslims. Now for us, we have I guess maybe if we get some time to talk about, we can build our own lookalike audience because we've got a mailing list of like 40,000 people. That we could just say Google. So we could just say Facebook, Instagram, target people that look like this. Or we could even just target our own audience.
Yes.
But someone like that who doesn't have any organic presence, whatever, he doesn't have an audience that he's built, a lookalike audience. How would he target Muslims for Quran?
So there's different ways that we can do it. So again, so with Google, what they specifically look at is your words, right? So what are the words that you're using? Now, a lot of the times you can actually appeal. So they don't want people, for example, inviting people to Islam, for example. Google, right? So, or any religion. So you're like, join Islam today, or join Christianity today, or whatever. So they don't want that. So there's religious keywords that you can't really use, right? And every time you use them, it will automatically
just cancel.
Well, it will get disapproved. You can then appeal it as well, depending on what you say. So you can go back to them and say, look, I'm a Quran teacher. I'm offering a course, and they'll look at it. So remember, you've got bots. So Google just has bots because obviously not every ad can be manually verified by a human. So they've just got bots who will just see a word and completely. So I also run ads for an Islamic charity in the UK, and so our ads always get blocked because of the word Islamic, because that's in their brand. So but as soon as I appeal, it gets released.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about for Instagram and Facebook? How would you target Muslims there if you didn't have any?
So again, the challenge is you can't target a religion. No channel does that. But there are certain interests that all Muslims, or generally Muslims, have. So, for example, what are the kind of groups or information that they may be looking at? So, for example, you might see that you, like you said, so a lot of the people, they want to move from the West into the Middle East and Muslim countries. So there'll be groups for people who are looking at those particular countries. So on Facebook, right?
And you can target those groups?
Yeah, you can target them, right? So you can target people, travel to Oman, travel to Dubai, that kind of stuff. So a lot of it will be tourist based. So like things like Dubai, obviously, that there's a big contingent.
What about targeting based on news, like people maybe who are following news on Palestine, for example, because that's like a very heavy interest.
So it's a bit,
for example.
It can be a bit tricky because, on the back end, you don't know how some of these channels will display information to you. Because, whilst this was going, there was people who were still active on Instagram, like influencers, but they were being shadow banned and stuff like that. So you don't know what's going on in the back end in terms of the algorithm. So I wouldn't really target anything which is related to anything that's a bit controversial. So, I'll try and stick to your core.
So then would you say then, if a person wanted to, if he had a highly like Muslim specific niche, it makes sense for him then to build his own organic presence first, because then you can just target people that have seen you or come into contact with you, which would be Muslim.
Yeah.
The algorithm does the job for you, right? Yeah. Like non-Muslims don't watch my stuff. The algorithm just places it in front of, like, the only non-Muslims that watch my stuff are people that are already interested in Islam.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, I'm looking into Islam, they watch my videos. The algorithm does the job for you. And then it's like, okay, cool. And now I want to target people that have seen my video in the last 6 months or the last year, or those that are actually subscribed.
Yeah.
Then I'm targeting Muslims, or then have a lookalike audience based on the emails that I've gathered. Would you say that's a better strategy then?
My question is, how long can you do that for without getting as many customers as you can? What I mean by that is that if you've got a site which has zero traffic,
Yeah.
right, you start doing the organic. You start getting a bit of a flow. But someone who's been around for 10 years, number one position, has an organic strategy, historical data, all of that. How long is it going to take you for you to get anywhere near that person? But with an ad, like I said earlier on, I can compete with the biggest people straight away, right? So as long as my targeting is correct, my keywords, my targeting, my ads are relevant to what people are looking for, then I'm more like.
So what if, for example,
straight away.
So what if, for example, 6 months worked on or 3 months worked on the organic, we saw a little bit of traction, enough to now be able to have a Muslim targeted audience to then run the ads to.
Yeah.
What about that type?
So you have to remember as well, there's something called a match rate.
Okay.
Right. A match rate is basically, let's say I plug in my customer base into Google, right? Now Google usually just requires a name and an email address, right? And it's hashed data.
It's hashed data. Okay.
So hashed is basically it's like a security. And it basically, all of the email addresses, names, they're all hashed out. So you can't, if anyone found that list, they wouldn't be able to read it, right? You would then plug that into Google. Google will unhash it. No human eyes will see that data other than you.
Okay.
That's how Google protects itself from privacy laws. Now, let's say you've got 1,000 people on that list. How many of those people can Google actually retarget to? So that is what your match rate is. It could be that if no one on the list, for example, has a Gmail address, Google doesn't know really who they are, right? They may be able to find some sort of link, you know, maybe that email address is linked to a company email, Gmail account or whatever. So it will try and find it that way. Maybe they've got a YouTube account, maybe they've got, but they're all using, I don't know if they even if you can use a non-Gmail account for YouTube or whatever it might be. So there's a certain amount of match rate, and it could be 50%. You know, it could be 75%. It could be 25%. So you've got to look at that. So depending on how many people you have on your list, will affect how effective your campaigns can be.
Okay.
Because again, those people may not be able to be matched to and may not be able to be targeted to. So Google can't find out what kind of interest they have. They don't know how much, where they live. They don't know anything.
A strategy that one of my friends employed.
Yeah.
He's got his own social media ad agency in America. He mentioned that he started targeting. I just want to hear your thoughts on this because it sounded really amazing, but I was like, almost sounds too good to be true that no one else has picked up on it. So he started targeting locations that are heavily populated by Muslims. So for example, Birmingham, Small Heath.
Yeah.
He said, I just run ads to there.
100%.
And then based on that, I just slowly started to just then increase the, like showing ads to similar type of people.
Yeah.
Slowly, and then targeting like other Muslim populated areas, and then it just learned.
Yeah.
Like his Facebook account or whatever just learned that these are the type of people that are being targeted by this particular guy. And then before you know it, he had this extensive audience of Muslims around the world. Does that sound about right?
That's brilliant. That's an absolutely great strategy. Because I'll come back to the service office provider. So again, one of my clients, one of my first client side roles. So they were running ads in Ireland, right? And they were targeting the whole of Ireland.
Okay.
Now, by targeting the whole of Ireland, they only had offices in the main cities within Ireland.
Dublin,
they didn't
Belfast.
Exactly. They didn't have it in the suburb, in the villages, in the countryside and stuff like that. So why am I targeting those people? I should be only targeting close to those service offices, right? Because people's not going to travel from. I mean, if it was the UK, let's say we only had offices in London. Why am I showing ads in Cornwall? No one's
Makes
going to
sense.
travel from Cornwall to London.
Makes sense.
So he's followed the same strategy. Target the people around the locations where they're going to be.
Uh-huh.
So if I was going to target Muslims, why not start at the mosques? So you can do radius campaigns within Google. And
That's it.
Facebook.
Radius. Yeah, radius.
Yeah. So a radius campaign. So Google allows you to do it at postcode level as well.
Okay.
But to find every single postcode and upload it, it's very time consuming and sometimes not as ideal as you like.
Yeah.
So you can just create a radius of 1 mile around, say, a mosque.
Uh-huh.
So you can drop a pin and say, right, I want to target 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles around a mosque, for example.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, you could basically that bit because that Muslims generally all live close to mosques. Generally.
Yeah.
It's essentially it's not essentially that's where your biggest Muslim population will be. So
just to kind of like bring it back for people and reset the room, we were talking about how Muslims can target Muslims in very like niche specific kind of areas because they don't allow you to target people that follow religion precisely, right? So you mentioned targeting people with certain interests on Facebook groups and whatever have you, targeting people based on lookalike audiences that you might already have, your own organic audiences that you can retarget to, targeting based on location. And the thing that really stood out to me, and the reason that's why I'm just kind of giving this summary here, is YouTube and Google from the angle of keyword searches, because these things are being searched by your ideal customer.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense that, okay, cool, if I can't specifically mention I'm looking for, Muslims to do Quran, you can just run ads for those keywords on YouTube and Google.
Yeah.
Whilst, for example, like building your lookalike audience or whatever. Like that's just so slept on. People are searching for it. Like it's not you going in front of someone and interrupting their day and saying, hey, sign up to my course. No, they are actively searching and looking.
Exactly. And it all comes down to, again, put yourself in your customer's shoes. What do you do? Because you're the same as all your customers, right? You like your product, you understand your product. So if I was, again, selling a course or selling a product, whatever it might be, what would I do? How would I search for that product? And just follow that pattern. If maybe if this Quran teacher, maybe another way would be to get some Muslim influencers, pay them a fee of whatever it might be, and they advertise their product on their podcast or however they share their content, and that might be the better strategy, because that all of their audience are Muslims or follow, depending on what their content is. That's what they're, and so when they advertise that product, what's going to happen? People will say, oh, actually I'm interested in that, there's a code, I can get 10% off, whatever. And now you're getting all your audiences from these influencers. So the great thing is that obviously Google is one element, but it's not the only element. It's not, Facebook is not the only one. You can go to influencers, do something different.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Brother Akbar, there's so much that we have to go through, but we're not going to be able to go. We're going to have to just book in another session, inshallah. But before we conclude, there's one last question on the topic of target and segmentation that we kind of touched on it briefly. It's the lookalike audiences.
Yeah.
So what is a lookalike audience? Is it effective? How effective is it? How does one use one?
Yeah. So we talked about retargeting, right? So this is retargeting to the people that have come to your website, or whatever it might be. So what a lookalike audience is, essentially we take your current customer base, we plug it into Google, Facebook, or Twitter, TikTok, whatever it might be.
You can do it on any of those platforms. I thought it was just TikTok.
No. We can do it on pretty much everything.
Okay.
Not every campaign type allows you to do it, but you can pretty much do it on every platform. And essentially, that particular platform, so to say Facebook, it will look at that audience. It will try and, again, do the match rate, depending on what the match rate is. So if it's 50%, 75%. it will then look at that 75% and say, okay, fine, this 75% of your list, they all
Have the following things in common.
yeah, they all have these things in common, or these are their interests. And then then what Facebook will do, it will say, okay, fine, who else outside of this list has those similar interests? So it's a lookalike of your current customer base.
And obviously, you have if you've gathered a solid lookalike audience, email list, or you know, like very niche, very, you know, like ideal customers, whatever have you.
Yeah.
This will be like super hyper focused targeting.
Yeah, it will be a lot more target. Well, it won't be super hyper, but it will generally it will tell the algorithm that this is the interest that my audience shares.
So we in the past ran an experiment with a lookalike audience before, and it was just based on our mailing list. But then it dawned on me that, okay, people who join your mailing list, not all of them are your customers, right?
Yeah.
But you could literally run a lookalike audience on those who have purchased from you. I think there has to be like a minimum of like 1,000 people on the list, if I'm not mistaken.
On Google, yeah, it's 1,000, but on Facebook it's like 20.
It's 20 now. Oh, okay. Back I'm talking 6-7 years ago. I think
Google, Facebook has always been very small. Google's always been active users, 100,000. Yeah.
My knowledge of this is very juvenile. But point being is that that you can, like, how powerful would it be if you could literally retarget your customers, target people that look like your customers.
100%. It's like, that's what we're going for, right? You know that your product service resonates with a certain type of person, mostly. So you wanna target as many of those people that also it would resonate with, and that's essentially what a lookalike audience does.
So, is this something like maybe everyone should try and do, or is it just very like specific?
It is so easy to set up that there's no reason why you wouldn't do it. The only way you wouldn't do it is if you don't have a list to start with. That's the only reason. If you got a list, plug it in.
Simple.
Update it every month. You know, as your customer base grows, just keep updating it, and then that will give. So you have to remember the algorithm will target everyone if you let it.
Yeah.
If you've got no targeting options, you've got no audience list, you've got nothing for it to target, it will target everyone. Right? If you don't put a location in, it will go global.
It will go global.
Right? And this is like some of the mistakes that I think people may be scared of, and why they end up spending too much money, because they don't set their global, they don't set the location. And you know, you find out that £500 is spent in, you know, Taiwan, for example. You know, just you got no customers there, right? So it's like, so that's what I'm saying. So you have to just by knowing basic stuff, you know, checking it, make sure you're doing the right thing, you can really make your campaign work. And so
so there's lookalike audiences based on email lists, right?
Yeah.
But what about based on like people who have, I'm not sure if lookalike audience is a word here, but like people who have seen your content. Is that, what would that be called?
So that's just a retargeting audience.
Retargeting audience.
Yeah. So you can build audiences based on there's something called Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is what happens on site. So you'll be able to track the pages that people visit. You'll be able to see if you've got a sales funnel, for example. To give you an example, they have a particular journey, a digital journey, where you start off by giving your phone number, and then you get like a one-time password, and then it takes you to a personal details page. Then you have to upload your. So there's a journey, right? And until you get to, right? It's like 9 steps. Now, by setting up Google Analytics, I can see, oh, there was 100 people that entered the journey, but then let's say there was only 10 that ended it, meaning where are they dropping off? But
the Google Analytics is not just for Google; it can be used.
It's for site. It's for your site. It tracks
whether your journey starts from YouTube, Instagram, because even we use Google Analytics.
Yeah.
We're not running Google Ads right now?
So it's not connected to. I mean, you can connect your different platforms to it.
Yeah.
But it's mainly to know what's going on. What are your on-site metrics?
Yeah, and where the traffic is coming from, and
Exactly.
and the behaviors on site.
Exactly, right. So by being able to track that, I know, for example, oh, you know what? Out of the 100 people, let's say 60 of them dropped off in the stage, for example. Now, if that's the case, is there something wrong with that part of the journey? You know, did the site go down? You can start asking yourself questions. If everything's okay, what is wrong with that journey? Is it that
Too much friction, maybe?
Yeah, maybe
Not clear.
yeah. So maybe the back end system is too stringent in terms of how the picture looks, and it just becomes more difficult. This kind of stuff. So you can find out where people are dropping off. You can even take it a step further, right? So there's a thing called Hotjar.
Yeah, just today our tech guy was telling us about this.
Yeah.
Just today.
And it's really interesting. So Hotjar is basically a heat map, right? So it shows like where most people are spending their time. It follows the pointer. So what you'll find is that most people, when they're on the site, their eyes will follow wherever the pointer, your cursor, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And sometimes what happens, like some people, you might see an image, for example, and some people, they'll click on the image, but it doesn't expand. Right? And you'll just see that a lot of people are like there and they're clicking on this image, but because it's not expandable, people then don't like it. So then you think, oh, hang on, there's a lot of people that actually want to see this image. Let me make it expandable. So you go to your web dev, whatever, or however you website service. I want to make this image expandable.
Also, you get to see if you have stuff that's a waste of space on your page. Like, for example, we not Hotjar, but through Calendly, which is our appointment booking tool, it actually tells you. So we've got multiple buttons on the page that lead you to the same calendar. And on Calendly, if I'm not mistaken, on Calendly you can track how many people actually clicked on each button. And we noticed that 89% of people were clicking on the first button, which indicates they're not even scrolling past the first button, right, all the way. Because if I'm actually reading, I would then go to the button at the bottom, and the button at the end was like it was trivial the amount of clicks they had. Like, it was sad, and we had made this long sales. Now, of course, you have to test it for yourself. Maybe your audience likes to read that type of stuff, but ours clearly didn't. So yeah, that type of stuff comes in really, really handy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So you can really find out what people are doing on your site, where they're looking mostly, what information is interesting to them, how far down the page they go. All this information is really useful because then you can find out what's good, what's bad, what's working, what's not working, and then you make adjustments. So we've kind of gone off topic, but essentially with Google Analytics, coming back to Google Analytics, that tracks what's going on site. So you can see where people are mostly dropping off in the user flow. You can see where traffic is coming from mostly. You can see which channels are converting best. So it tracks revenue, it can track sales, things like that, transactions, form fills, all of that stuff. So it can track all of that. You can even find some really interesting information regarding like geographics. You can find even interests. So you can even build an audience within Google Analytics.
Oh, wow.
So even if, regardless of where they come from, you can then take that audience and you can plug it back to Google.
Okay.
So for example, let's say
could you plug it back into Facebook?
No.
Okay, just to Google. Okay.
Just to Google, right?
But Meta has its own analytics tool as well, isn't it? Where you can track
well, Meta does track like you can, once you put the pixel on the thing, so on the site, then it will track like data and stuff like that. You can find out certain information, but in terms of purely from a website perspective, it's only Google Analytics. There are other platforms available, but Google Analytics it's generally free, or they call it GA4 now, so it's been updated. But yeah, so you can actually create an audience based on that. So you can say, right, I want to build an audience for everyone who's been on the site for more than 3 minutes, has purchased. Let's say you sell multiple products. Let's say you were saying about scent perfume. So let's say you're a perfume seller and you find out that there's people that will buy from you multiple times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So those might be your like golden goose, your top of the, your top most loyal clients. So you could create an audience based on your most loyal clients.
Wow.
Right? You can say, right, anyone that's bought more than 3 products in the last 6 months, that goes into this list. And then you can kind of retarget them. You could give them a discount code only for them. Okay. You could even so you could say to Google, I only want to target this audience. So anytime that they search for perfume and you're targeting the word perfume within that campaign, then your ad will be there.
Wow. But Akbar, wallah, this has been very, very, very extensive. Jazakallah khair. I had 27 questions, of which we've actually only gone through 7. Right? We've actually gone through like 7 main questions. But inshallah, we're gonna be going through more of these discussions. Just so you guys are aware, Brother Akbar, inshallah, is gonna be teaching these paid ads courses on the Righteous and Rich School. So all of this stuff that we're talking about, if you're looking to get involved in, Facebook advertising, Google, YouTube, all of this stuff that we just talked about, right? The objective of this video was to introduce you to the possibilities that are out there for those of you who are actually already doing some form of paid advertising to, maybe identify some strategies and get some quick wins. But if you want that detailed approach, then he's going to be giving that training, and also likewise taking live calls in the community where he can answer your questions. And I guess that's really where the primary value is going to come, because look, having someone like this who's had clients that are on a global level look through your ad campaign, and for you to share your screen and say, look, these are my bottlenecks and this is what I'm doing, and get that tailored advice, you're going to struggle to find this anywhere else. I know people who have anywhere near as much experience as Brother Akbar has, but they let's just say the barriers to entry are a lot higher to even have an amateur give you that type of advice and feedback. And this is something that we hope that we can do with Brother Akbar long term, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So click on the link below, inshallah ta'ala, and check out our Righteous and Rich School, and hopefully we see you on the other side. Assalamu alaikum.